Hey guys, if you're applying to college soon, you may have noticed that the Common Application has added an essay for this application season from 2020 to 2021. I'll call it the COVID-19 essay. It's basically an essay where you can talk about the effects that COVID-19 may have had on you specifically, and it's 250 words. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how you might approach that so that you can write the best essay possible. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Brooke. I'm an independent college consultant. I've been doing this for over a decade and a half. I also coach students on the SAT and the ACT. I've built 2 online courses for those tests. You can find those online at SupertutorTV.com. I've also written a couple of books on the ACT math section. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It's super easy. All you have to do is click subscribe below this video. We also have social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check us out there if you'd like to stay in the loop. Finally, subscribe to our mailing list, SupertutorTV.com/subscribe. It's totally free, and we'll send you fun messages about what we're up to, new videos, and possibly sales or deals when we do have them. So definitely check that out. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and read the Common Application COVID-19 essay first, and then we'll talk about it. Community disruptions such as COVID-19 and natural disasters can have deep and long-lasting impacts. If you need it, this space is yours to describe those impacts. Colleges care about the effects on your health and well-being, safety, family circumstances, future plans, and education, including access to reliable technology and quiet study spaces. Do you wish to share anything on this topic, yes or no? And please use this space to describe how these events have impacted you. So the first thing that I get from a lot of students is, should I even write this thing? Do I have to write this thing? And my general response is, I like to use all of the opportunities that I have whenever I'm applying to college. And this is one of those opportunities. That being said, there might be a few instances where you don't need to submit this thing at all. Mostly if you really feel like COVID hasn't affected you at all. For example, if you're a homeschooled student and you always were schooling at home and there's nothing really different and all of your activities were pretty insular anyway. If that's your life, then maybe you don't need to talk about this. But for the rest of us, which is most of us, you probably have something to say on this topic. I think it really has affected all of us in some way. So let's talk about how to approach this, how not to approach this, so that your essay stands out and it doesn't just fall into the pile of everybody else who's dealing with COVID. My first tip is, don't summarize the crisis. One of the things that I've seen with some of my students who have broached this topic already is that some of them just kind of summarize for us what happened with COVID-19, right? And that's not really what colleges are after. You've got to think, why are colleges asking this question? Well, they want a context in which to determine how impressive your particular stats or circumstances are. They always take students in context, and this is a way for you to provide that context. If that context is very broad and general and the kind of context that we all have, right? It's been a challenge for me with COVID-19 because I no longer have class at school, and so I have to log in on Zoom, and sometimes, my computer won't log in. Okay, right? And I also, my mom has to buy all the groceries in advance because we're ordering them online and she's deathly afraid of the grocery store. So that's been different because it's not like we can have instant access to everything we want. Okay, right? You've got to ask yourself when you're talking about things in this essay, what is it that you're trying to convey to colleges? And no matter what, you want to convey something great about you, right? Now, sometimes those stories are contexts that make all of the other accomplishments that you have seem even more awesome than they already are, because it's like, wow, you had to deal with really tough things. Maybe you don't have reliable technology and you were the kid in that photo, that heartbreaking photo that I saw in my Facebook stream a few months ago, where some kids who didn't have internet at home took their laptops to the outside of the school building and sat in the grass so that they could get internet to watch online classes from the outside of the school building because they knew the school building had Wi-Fi, right? That's telling to me. It's sad, but it's also like, oh my gosh, you went out of your way to try to figure things out. So you've got to think, if you've got those extreme circumstances, this is the place to tell, and you want to tell it like a story. And you also want to tell those details of what happened. But in any case, those are specific, and they're not just a summary of the crisis as a whole. They're a summary of how that crisis actually impacts you, okay? My next don't write something so generic that anyone could write it. So in that genericness, you want to try to seem original because we all are going through COVID-19. And so even though it's a challenge, you have to understand that a lot of that challenge is going to be very similar for everyone that's writing about it. And an acknowledgement of that is going to help you try to write your essay in a way that makes you sound different than everybody else writing about it. So when you write your essay and you write about your experiences, I want you to ask yourself, is this an essay that every single person at my high school could write? And if it is, you have a problem, okay? You need to write an essay that only you could write. Make it human, tell a story, and draw us in, okay? Now, what can you do if those are my don'ts? You can talk about real barriers, and I touched on that, right? If you have these extenuating circumstances, this is definitely the place to talk about that. It could be that your parents got COVID-19 and you want to talk about that particular experience. This could be a storytelling hour where you talk about the challenge and the experience of getting through COVID. Maybe it's about that you got COVID and how you dealt with it. And you can also think about like the risks that you won't be able to take. You know, I have some students who have health issues, underlying health issues, and because of their underlying health issues, their doctors have said you can't go to class, you can't go to school, even if your school is meeting again. And so you have to do distance learning even if everybody else isn't. So if that's you, or if you have real barriers from COVID-19, talk about them. If you live with your grandmother and your mom's deathly afraid that you're going to get grandma sick, and so that means that you had to quit your job and you had to quit this and you had to quit that, talk about it. But in any case, do think about those barriers, and you want to explain to schools if you do have extenuating circumstances. Now, I know a lot of you are like, that's not me, like COVID's affecting me, and like, yeah, one of my two parents lost their job, but they're on unemployment, so they're doing okay. And then my other parent still has his job, so we're kind of okay, and like things are a little bit tough, and like mom doesn't want me spending money on clothes anymore or whatever, but that's fine, I'm just zooming into class anyway, right? Or whatever it is, maybe that's your experience. In any case, if you feel like you don't have a sob story, right, that like it's almost impossible for you to distance learn or whatever it is, that's fine. But you've got to realistically look, are there real barriers that COVID-19 has created for you? And how can you relay that you are somebody who is dealing with this crisis in a way that's the best that you know how, right? You still can talk about your personal response to it, and that can help us learn something about you. And that brings me to our next point. Do focus on your positive means of overcoming any barriers that you may have had from COVID-19. Well, I don't want you to be super generic about how you write about stuff. I do want you to have a positive attitude. One of the greatest things that you can convey in this essay is not just to be a Debbie Downer. Even if you have lots of really sad things that have happened to you, you don't want to be explaining everything in a way that just makes me feel sad when I come away from the essay. You want me to feel like, wow, this kid's a fighter and they don't have the best circumstances, but what an awesome positive attitude this girl has. So focus on the positive means of how do you overcome these barriers? How can you show your character? How can you show your grit, right? What do you do to step up and push through the challenges that you see in front of you? Okay. And finally, my last tip for you guys on this COVID essay is do focus on the positive ways that you've been creative in the midst of this COVID crisis, right? That may be, you know, even if you're the comfy homeschool kid who's totally used to this, it may be that you found other ways to create extracurricular activities, you know, that it's been a challenge and you had to adapt, but you found ways to do that. And how have you done that? It also might be if you have taken on any initiatives to try to help in the COVID-19 crisis. This is also a place where you could write about that, right? Some of you may have started a mask sewing campaign to sew masks for people or essential workers in the community. Some of you may have tried to create a mental health outreach resource for students who were sad or who were having trouble or who felt lonely because of COVID-19. So that's also another way you can deal with this essay, is focus on positive ways that you have adapted given the deck that COVID has stacked for you and for everyone else. In any case, what I hope you guys can take away from this is that this essay, like every other essay on your college application, is about revealing the qualities of you. Who are you and how do you deal with adversity? That's really what this essay is about. How do you show that you're a super awesome person who is resilient, and even when challenges strike you, you're able to get back up and try hard and do your best. It also is a place to kind of give extenuating circumstances when they do genuinely exist, so that colleges understand if you have barriers or challenges that maybe not everybody has given the COVID-19 crisis. I know these times have been tough on a lot of you. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing. I have so much respect for all of you because I know that you guys are going through school in an unprecedented time. I know that a lot of you have lesser resources when it comes to online schooling, and I know these are not ideal circumstances for education right now. But I commend all of you for getting this far in this video, because it means that you care about your education and you at least want to turn in a pretty good college application. So for that, I applaud you. I hope you guys liked this video and found it helpful. If so, please give it a thumbs up. Peace out, stay safe everybody, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.